Hi, Ben.
Daddy?
You want a balloon, Ben? They float.
They all float.
Come here, son. You'll like it down there.
You'll never have to grow up.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
Let's shoot this straight to DVD piece of shit already.
You get to a certain age, I think your mum and dad start worrying, like, oh, he's an artist, he's not going to have any money, or he's going to be broke. Because I did my acting and the acting jobs were like here and there. Eventually my mum and dad said, maybe you should try, do something else, go study something else. So then I said, actually, I want to do directing, and they were like, oh God, we meant like something else. When I shot the short, it was completely a solo project. There was no plan to do a feature or anything like that. It was literally just to do this experimental film, which I just got the idea, and I wanted to make it very visual, no dialogue, just like a visual story, experimental, about a guy off his head on drugs on the latest hit that he's had. And he's just obviously in this abandoned building going through his highs and lows. I got to a point where I'm like, right, I need to make a feature. I can't wait anymore. I want to do it. Which film should I do? And I had all these different scripts. I was looking at the short and going like, how the hell can I take this character and this actor who's not an actor? Because that's the thing. It's like, Gary's background, who played Friar Barry, he was an extra and wanting to be an actor. But because of his striking, the way he looks and stuff, I was just like, cool, I want to do this short with him. But then because he's not an actor, I'm like, how can I put him as a lead in a feature and not have loads of dialogue and still make sense and still be able to pull it off? So it was one of those things where I had to think completely out of the box and get this story that works the way I'm going to film it, in a sense of I had to shoot the film in blocks over a year and a half. So it was like, there was stuff like continuity. So, if you're going to shoot a film over a year and a half, continuity is a nightmare. Trying to get everybody back on board, the same haircuts, the same clothes and all this. So the design of the movie had to be right. So every character he meets, they're done, and then he moves and meets the next person, and then they're done. So the main continuity of the movie was Friar Barry, was Gary. So you just had to have the same clothes and have the same look. All the other actors didn't matter, apart from one or two that popped back into it. Even if the line delivery was bad from Gary, from mimicking somebody, it's fine. He's an alien and he's just copying and repeating what people says. So everything, I built the movie around Gary to make it work. And as I always say, I had to work very close with Gary, but Gary did an amazing job, and he was, he was brilliant, and he was very patient with me. and I was very patient with him as we shot the movie. And as time went on, I gave him a little bit of a bigger role, a one-liner, or this and this, and I was just giving him more screen time here and there because I liked his look, and that's why when I shot the short, I got this idea, and I'm like, to cast that, it has to be, I thought of Gary straight away because it's just like the way he looks. It's like, yeah, he can pass as a heroin addict, So he's just got this certain look, and that's the thing. Nobody could have played Fry Barry better than Gary. He just owned the part, and I didn't think of anybody else to do this movie. I was just like, Gary has to do it. And this is his shot of doing something big. And it sounds like a simple thing, but I don't know, maybe some filmmakers don't think of it, or I don't know, but it's one of those where any film that you love, you remember certain scenes and it's stuck in your head, so it was a big thing for me and it's not about shock value or anything like that. It's just more about having a scene that people will talk about and people will remember. So there was a handful of scenes that I was doing in that film. I'm like, going balls to the wall and just going, okay, this has to be like this. It has to be quite shocking and this and this and this, because it's going to create people to talk. And like I said, it's not about the shock value, but it's just how we put the scene together and how random it was or how crazy it was for people to go, fuck, that was insane, or that was crazy, but you remember it. And as I always say, with Fry Barry, it's one of those films that if you don't go into it open-mindedly, you can easily not enjoy the experience. It's one of those where you either get it or you don't. You either love it or you hate it. When Barry gets abducted, I could have shot that green screen. Put him on a wire, shot in green screen, and move him up. It would have been an easier way to do it, but I'm like, it needs to be real. It needs to be in camera. It always looks better with the prosthetics and this and this and this. So during that abduction scene and in the spaceship when he's like floating up, so we actually got a crane and attached a wire to Gary, and we lifted him in the road, in the street, and we took him up, and I was like, we have to do that. So yeah, we did that instead of shooting green screen. And then even when he was in the spaceship, we were in the studio and he's like floating up, I could have shot that green screen as well. And we shot that on a Phantom, for the super slow motion, for the high speed slow motion. I mean, there's not even that much visual effects in Fry Barry. I mean, at the top of my head, you've got some of those scenes where the neck stretches out or the jaw stretches out, or the spaceship, at the end. But yeah, there's not that much. I tried my best to do everything in camera, like the 80s, and keep it all real and raw, and have that, have that feel and have that effect. Because as soon as you do certain type of visual effects, it's either going to look cheap or it's going to look a bit shit. And then and this is why I always say, like, in the 80s, it was like 80% in camera, 20% visual effects. And now it's completely the other way around. So, which is fucking insane. With watching so many different genres, like completely different. But obviously, as a kid growing up in the 80s and early 90s, obviously it was always a big thing when you watched like the shit that you weren't kind of supposed to watch yet. So you get more intrigued by all that stuff. So yeah, I guess I always liked the 80s like horror films and stuff with like Cronenberg and David Lynch and just stuff like that, and just all these B-movie 80s horror films and stuff like that. So yeah, I like all genres, and I still want to make all genres of films, but for me, it's always the darker side of life that really interests me.
When you watch this film, you need to be sure that it's suitable for the audience around you. This film has been classified 18, which means it's for adults only and no one else. It's an offense for anyone to supply this film to anyone under that age. 18 films may contain explicit language, nudity, and strong scenes of high-impact sexual violence which could be graphic and disturbing to those at home. Certificates are there for you to make the right choice and to inform others to have knowledge of the film before viewing.
You know, I live in South Africa, and I've lived in South Africa now for about 15, 16 years. My dad's South African, mum's English, but I actually grew up in England. So for me in England in the 80s, I can't remember the guy's name now, but I literally did that scene because it was a reference, because the old 80s videotapes, you would see, I think the guy's called something Bates. I can't remember his name at the top of my head now. But every time, you know, you watched a film on TV, or especially a VHS, it would always start with this dude with glasses on going, "This film is rated 18. That means blah, 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 blah." And he would say all that. And you would always fast forward it. Or if you're with your friends or family, everybody would repeat what he says because we've heard it a million times. So it was a big reference for me to put that in and change up, you know, what he's actually saying and have that. So there was a lot of stuff in Friar Barry of stuff that connected to me from watching films, you know, like the intermission or the, you know, the certification thing at the beginning. So yeah, it's growing up with my friends and stuff like that. So it was always a thing anyway where I was directing. But, you know, I didn't take it too seriously because I wanted to concentrate on my acting. But I wanted to film stuff so, you know, you can have that content. And, yeah, and then it just grew from there. And then, like with anything, you know, it's about getting the right people together, you know, create content. And after years of making mistakes and making bad shit when you're young, you know, you learn more stuff and you make those mistakes and you learn from the mistakes and you end up doing more decent stuff, and surround yourself with great people that that are good at what they do, you know, and everything will, you know, every department makes the film just shine just that little bit more, you know.